fun stuff.
Yeah, so I started off as a broke college kid looking for extra beer money, and I really got thrown into the fire. I thought that I could cut off the school bookstore. I wanted to give people more money for their textbooks, and before I knew it, I had a line out the door of people trying to sell me their books instead of the bookstore. To the point where I actually got a cease and desist letter from the school bookstore because I was taking away their business. And when I started to sell these books to different online retailers, I came across Amazon and I became obsessed with it. I became addicted to it. And what I wanted to do was come up with a really profitable business just on Amazon, creating an Amazon store and selling products that I liked. So I started selling sporting equipment and computers and DVDs, and I just failed over and over again. And one day I realized I was really good at selling baby products. So I was a 20-year-old single college guy selling baby products on Amazon, ended up building this multi-million-dollar dropshipping business, and it became time to hire. And I had no idea what I was doing. I hired my first employee before I could legally drink. Connor, my business partner, one of the best hires, and a lot of bad hires followed that. And as I grew this and I graduated and I opened up an office and learned the remote hiring world, my time switched from the things that I like, which was systems and processes, to the things that I didn't like, which was the HR and the interviews and the repetition. So I always wanted there to be a faster way. So that's really how I came up with the idea of FreeeUp, based on my own needs, my own valuing my time, a marketplace where we vet people before they come in, and we protect them and have great support on the back end. So that's really how I went from a broke college kid to starting an e-commerce business to owning FreeeUp.
There you go. So a little on me, I'm a little actually kind of similar in the same boat, just different direction. I've actually come from multiple market agencies prior to this. But my job prior to this, I was actually at an e-commerce company where a majority of our work was also outsourced. In fact, I was one of two companies for a business that was well into 8 figures. And we only had 2 employees that were managing pretty much everything across the board. I helped with everything on the marketing side. We had someone else on the operational side. So I'm definitely, a firm believer in the automation and then, of course, virtual assistants, because they are a magical thing to have if they stick around and work well for you.
Absolutely.
So we can go ahead and get started here. Nate, I'm going to have you do me a favor since I'm sharing the screen. I'm actually going to want to keep this bigger. So there's a message option on the bottom right that should take you over to Facebook. It will show you if anyone's messaging us, and we can obviously take questions along the way. We'd be happy to answer them for you guys. So let me know if you have any trouble finding that one, Nate.
You said it's on the bottom right?
It should be up on the right side. You'll have your little control panel thing, and one of them says Facebook messaging. So about myself, director over at Seller's Choice. We're a full-service e-commerce digital marketing agency for sellers on Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, Squarespace, you name it. And then, of course, on marketplaces, Amazon, eBay, Walmart, all that fun stuff. I love to find new ways to automate things. So that's kind of how Nate and I connected here. And then, of course, things I can't automate, I like to outsource, because who doesn't love their own free time? So, Nate, this is where you come in if you want to touch on this.
By the way, there's no Facebook thing on my side. I don't know if that's a presenter versus moderator thing. But so, yeah, a little about me. I live in Florida. I run my e-commerce business. I run FreeeUp. You can see my girlfriend and my awesome puppy, Charlie, over there. He's right next to me. And I have that financial freedom. That's what every entrepreneur wants. I can do what I want when I want. I can travel. I'm going to be in the Philippines in March, and San Diego and San Francisco right before then. And it's kind of fun running companies remote because you just have that pure freedom. It was one of the things I hated when I opened an office. I've hired hundreds of freelancers. I have a team right now of 20 people. I wouldn't trade them for any team in the world. They are incredible. They're monitoring my Skype and my emails right now when I'm sleeping. They do everything from the social media to the Facebook ads and the blog writing and everything, lead generation, you name it. So they're incredible. I love working with them, and that's kind of where I'm at.
So before you joined on, I had a couple people tell us they were from Tampa, Florida. Where in Florida are you at?
I'm in Orlando.
You're in Orlando.
It's like
I am a UCF grad. So
really?
I'm Orlando, yeah.
I went to a UCF football game last year. It was pretty awesome.
Oh, nice. I love our team now. So I was able to open up the questions on my phone, so I got it sitting there. So if anyone has any questions as we're going along, or if anyone wants to just interrupt and say anything, by all means, I'll be able to get your answer right here, okay? And then Nate, feel free to take it over.
Perfect. So yeah, it wasn't always that way. It's not like I woke up one day to this awesome team. I made a lot of terrible hires, and we'll talk about that at the end when we share horror stories. But I had no idea what I was doing. And I talk to clients all the time that really have no idea. They might have been scared from past hiring experiences, someone that wasted their time, their money, their energy, whatever it is. But I know that it can happen because I've been to that point where I was working 80 hours a week, where it destroyed my social life, and I barely got through busy season. So I know the feeling, and I know that it can be overcome. I was introduced to the Odesk and the Upworks of the world from this random guy on my football team when I first moved to Florida. He was like, "Hey, let me introduce you to this worker from the Philippines." I'd never met anyone from the Philippines before. Completely changed my life. So if you've never outsourced it, if you're scared to hire outside the US, again, I've been there before. And it took me years of hiring freelancers before I came up with good systems, good processes, good ways to evaluate talent, good ways to get what I want and make good investments. And I wish that I had all the knowledge that I have now back in the day. And I wish that there were webinars and people that would have taught me how to do that, because I would have saved a lot of time and money. You can keep going on the next slide. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So now that I have that information, what's awesome about FreeeUp compared to running my Amazon business, which is pushing products and making money for me and my team, I get to help other people. I get to help business owners from around the world. I get to do webinars. I get to do podcasts and speak at conferences with one leg, like you can see me there. And on the freelance side, I get to travel to the Philippines and meet 100 people that we've influenced their lives. I get to know that we paid out $3 million to freelancers last year to help support their families and grow their freelance business. So it's awesome to be able to contribute and help people on that level while also running a business and making money, and all that is great. But after doing that for a lot of years, you really do want to give back. This is really my way of helping other businesses.
All right, so let's go over a little bit about what we're talking about today. So I'll let you start off here.
Cool. So half of the battle of outsourcing and hiring freelancers is knowing what not to do. Most of the times that clients come to me and they had a situation, there was always something that they could have done to prevent it. Not to say that it's never the freelancer's fault. A lot of times it is, but there are things that you can do to either stop the problem before it happens or move on before it happens. So you can see the eight common mistakes of outsourcing. These are things that everyone does. Even once in a while, I'm guilty of making a mistake. But if you can avoid these and really focus on them from the beginning and learn them before you dive in, you're going to save yourself so much time and energy. And we'll talk about giving vague estimates and due dates and not setting them exactly. What happens if you don't set expectations up front? What happens when, as an entrepreneur, you don't get feedback from other people, which is so important. So you adjust your managing style, your leadership style. And that's fear of conflict, which is huge. I mean, I think everyone has it a little bit where you don't want to piss anyone off, but you got to get over it. So those are just a few. You can see a list of them there, and I'm excited to tell you how to avoid them.
Yeah, I would say definitely, one of the common mistakes that I've come across every time we've hired someone new for freelancing, or if we've outsourced them in any way, is the whole onboarding process, which no we'll touch on in here. There's definitely putting together SOPs so you don't have to continuously be onboarding new people, or just so that there's not so much lag time in the beginning as you're bringing someone new on. So like we'll get into that here. So why don't you go ahead and touch on this next slide here?
Yeah. So what's the goal of you being here or watching this later? You want to become better at hiring online. You want to avoid the mistakes. You want to have confidence to go in knowing that you're not going to waste your money and your time. No one has a 100% hiring record. It just doesn't happen. FreeeUp is probably well over 95%, but you're never going to get to that 100. You have to focus on the systems, the processes, and you have to have the confidence that even if you make a bad hiring decision, that doesn't stop you from hiring, because your business dies if you can't hire, if you can't expand. Eventually you hit a limit. So you have to be able to move forward. You have to have the confidence to do it. And we're going to teach you how to do it at an incredibly high level.
Beautiful. So I'll touch a little bit here on what to outsource. So I've outsourced tons of stuff over time of different agencies I've been at where we outsourced things that we were doing. I know it's a little ironic to outsource your marketing to to an agency that you're essentially outsourcing to, and then they're outsourcing things. We really don't outsource too much here at Seller's Choice, but previously at past agencies, we had outsourced a lot. And then obviously at the last e-commerce business I was at, we outsourced a ton of stuff, whether it was your basic assistant. So our CEO had an assistant who was helping with setting up meetings or handling his email, because I'm sure a lot of these CEOs, a lot of these founders of these businesses have a ton of emails coming in that are just full of stuff you don't want to deal with. Social media, you have people out there, if you're not aware of how to handle social media, whether you outsource it to an agency or you outsource it to a freelancer, there's a ton of people out there that are helping out with social media. In fact, I even outsourced one platform to FreeeUp, which is how Nate and I had originally met. I have someone helping us out on Pinterest who's doing a great job right now. And that's been something that we've kind of outsourced a little bit. PPC, those are things that you can outsource. Everything here, all the Amazon stuff, listing optimization, it's all basic keyword research, having them put together spreadsheets or anything along those lines, graphic design, website design, and development. There's a ton of people overseas that do very good jobs. They don't, I understand, Nate, what you meant about like a lot of people are really skeptical to outsource outside of the States. Some people just don't want to for their own reasonings. And, it's to each his own. You can do whatever you want. However, I've worked with people in India. I've worked with people in the Philippines who've done a great job. And I think it really comes down to vetting them appropriately. And you'll actually find that there are people out there who can work with you and do a great job and aren't just going to spam you and want to work with you, and then you end up working with them and they're awful. There are some good ones out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And my favorite Facebook message that I see, or Facebook post, it's like, what should you not outsource? And everyone posts something on there like PPC, content writing, whatever it is. And I'm always like, I outsource all this stuff. There's nothing you can't outsource. And even just hire remote workers. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter where the freelancer's from. It's more about their skills, their experience, their ability to communicate. So yeah. I've outsourced all that stuff. I've used U.S. people, non-U.S. people. It really is the way forward. It's how you're going to be able to expand and scale your business.
Oh, yeah.
So before we kind of jump right into it, if you're watching, I want you to shut your eyes for a second and think, what is actually preventing you from hiring right now? Why haven't you built that awesome team? Why haven't you started? Why haven't you dove in? Is it finances? Can you actually not afford it? Which we'll talk about some solutions for that. Are you scared to do it? Are you scared because of horror stories you read online, of past experiences you've had or other people you know have had? Have you made those mistakes? Are you afraid of your security, which is a common misconception we'll talk about risking your financial information, your business information, putting it in someone else's hands, or you're just worried about not doing it correctly, which we'll solve a lot here. So whatever it is, we're going to focus on getting over that so that you can start tomorrow hiring freelancers.
Yeah, the big one I've heard of a lot too is actually that security one. I've heard so many people who are afraid to outsource things and worry about the security of their e-commerce business. There are so many ways that you can limit the amount of things that people have access to and they can still do a good job. So that's definitely one I've seen a lot as well. I had a question from Lisa who asked what PPC is. PPC is your pay-per-click advertising. So if you're doing Google AdWords, social media ads, Amazon ads, anything along those lines, there are freelancers or other ways for you to outsource things so that you can have someone else handle them for you.
Yeah, and that could be Amazon, Google, Facebook, you name it.
Yeah. So finding the right VA, last job I was at, I hired so many VAs that I feel like I finally mastered this. And that really helped actually, even when I was helping getting some work from you, Nate, where I was able to, find the right person within the first couple tries. So we always request past work is something I always do. There's a lot of people out there who will say, oh, I can run your social media account. And then you find out later on that they just have a social media account. They don't know how to do it for business. Requesting references is another great thing. It doesn't hurt to just shoot someone an email and be like, hey, I'm about to hire someone. Have you ever worked with them before? Maybe they respond, maybe they don't, but it is nice that they at least offered those references. I always like to get on a quick call with someone and actually hear them. Some people can be very well written and speak perfectly through email, but then you get on a call with them, you realize they're not the smartest person in the world, and they had some help putting this email together, and now you've dodged that bullet of working with someone who may not actually be able to help with you, especially if you're looking for a blog writer who, you need someone who can speak well and who will actually, has a good understanding of the English language. So if you can get on a call with them and they can hold a conversation, you should be fine. Vetting in the job description. So this is something I used to do. I used to do all of my work through all my freelancer stuff through Upwork. And recently I've come over to FreeeUp because they basically find them for you. To me, you guys are kind of like Nate. You guys are kind of like it just makes it easier because you guys are like a recruiting agency for freelancers. I don't have to find the freelancers, you do, which is fantastic. But what we used to do is I used to hide stuff in the job description that I would say, in a paragraph, I would just throw in there, make sure you use this word in your response. So I know if someone actually read everything and if they actually engaged in what I was trying to look for a job for, or if, they just kind of skimmed through it and decided to apply.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I always say, before we get to the slide, I always say that half of interviewing is trying to trick the person. You're looking for red flags. That's the whole goal of it. So we have so many almost like traps throughout our process. I don't want to dive into them because then they get out there, but they're really designed to weed out the people who won't spend the extra time, who won't pay attention, who don't have that attention to detail, who can't communicate. And that's half the battle, because I once took a college class on how to do interviews. People know how to do it. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at their job. And anything you can do to pull out those red flags is going to save you a lot of time and energy in the future.
Yeah.
This is a key one. And this actually just happened right before. I was talking to a client right before we came on here, and she had this other VA from outside FreeeUp who had missed a deadline. And she was like how this keeps happening to me. They always do this. And I always ask a few questions. I'm like, who set the deadline? Was it you or was it the VA? And for me, I never set deadlines for other people. I know what deadline I want, but I'll have them tell me the deadline. And I will even give them a chance to back out of it. I'm like, hey, so you have to get X, Y, Z done. Are you sure that's the deadline? Do you need extra time? Are you keeping this in mind? What about revisions? What about whatever? Making sure the estimate comes from them and making sure that's in writing. Now, in addition to the deadline, I would get an estimate. So whether the estimate is a fixed price or it is the actual amount of hours, make sure you get an estimate. Make sure they're overestimating if it's hourly so that you come in under budget, not over, and hold them accountable to it. You're not responsible if they go over budget without your approval, especially on the FreeeUp platform. And when you get these due dates, I always say you're getting two numbers. You're getting that estimate and you're getting the due date. And the due date has the date and the time. Be incredibly specific. It's due at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So that way at 2:01, if they haven't hit the deadline, you can come to me, you can come to my assistants, and we'll handle it from there. But I've seen so many people that are like, oh, they told me it'd be done Monday. And in the freelancer's mind, they're like, oh, I'll have it done by 11:59 p.m. on Monday. And the client's like, oh, no, I needed that Monday morning, but they never actually talked about it. So make sure that you're getting not only estimates, but the due dates and very specific due dates that has time and time zone.
Yeah, I'm a big fan on giving them a test run. So essentially what I like to do is, I do the exact same thing that you had mentioned, where I don't like to give them deadlines. I let them pick their own. So that way, if they don't reach them, it's on them. They should know how long, the project should take if they've done it in the past. But what I like to do is to give them smaller projects. So if I'm looking to hire, let's say a graphic designer to help me do images for products, across my entire site, and I have 50 or 60 products, I'm just going to give them one product. I'm going to give them one. I'm going to see how long it takes them to do one. I'm going to see how good it is. And I'm going to tell them like, hey, if this product works out, then let's see how it goes. Then after that, I like to hire hourly, just so I know exactly how much time they're taking, unless it's on a project standpoint, in which I just say, quote me for how long it will take you to do this entire project, and let's stick to that. So that way I'm not getting like stuck with someone if I just give them a giant project that I need done. I'd rather take it slow and get it done correctly than speed up the process by giving them way too much to do and then they fail at it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, I'll give an example. I give devs very short leashes, because I know if a dev can't communicate, if they can't hit deadlines from the beginning, I don't want to work with that person. We had a developer we hired late last year. I gave them one project. It was a 3-day project. They missed their deadline, done. Not working with that person anymore. And obviously that's the extreme. I don't necessarily recommend doing that with every single person. I just know developers and how it kind of works with them. But I 100% agree. Give them a test project. If it doesn't go well, you haven't invested your time, you haven't invested much money into it, cut them loose and get someone else. You really have to look at hiring as an investment. The more that you've invested into someone, the longer leash you give them. And if red flags come up from the beginning, you got to jump ship.
I agree.
Yeah, so this is kind of the same thing with the mistake. So I've seen this before where someone's like, oh, that interview went really well. Here's a 2-month project. Talk to me in 2 months. And that you're setting yourself up for failure. You've never worked with this person before. You're kind of basing on past history. You haven't given them any opportunity to prove themselves. So what I always do with those tests is I'm giving feedback, because let's say I hire a graphic designer. Just even the best graphic designer isn't going to know every little thing I'm thinking in my head. And me as a non-graphic designer, I might not do a great job of telling them about it. So if I give them a project and it doesn't come out exactly the way I want it, maybe in a 1 or 2 day project, I'll still give them another chance. I'll give them feedback on it. I'd be like, hey, adjust to this, adjust to this. And for me, I care more about how they adjust to my feedback than I do about the original request, because I know how vague me and other clients must seem to them with their creative graphic design mind. So I always go into it being like, hey, here's the project. We'll interview for it. Okay, here's a test project. Here's some feedback. Okay, now that you have it done, let's evaluate and see if we can move forward. And I'll even go small project, slightly bigger project before I give them this huge thing. For example, our software right now, we've been working on this payment system for 5 months. It's a huge project. But I didn't just hire someone and give them a 5-month project. This is someone that's worked for me for 2 years doing lots of smaller projects at a high level. So I trusted them for this big one.
Yeah, pretty much same concept here. What I've always done is I've broken down the role. So if I have a project that they're doing, or if I have them even hourly, I kind of do a 30, 60, and 90-day evaluation, and I want to train them to just get a very simple thing done within the first 30 days. And then over the next 30 days, we'll give them a little bit more of what that role entails. And then over the next 30 days, we'll give them a little bit more. So this way, we're not throwing it all on their plate and just setting them up for failure. I've had a ton of freelancers who've gotten overwhelmed in the beginning, or I've had freelancers who didn't like certain parts of the project so that they didn't get involved in it. So I wanted to make sure that I gave them, something that they enjoyed at first, so that they actually started to grow with the role and see that they can grow with the company. So I do like the whole slow and steady approach. And then I'm a big fan of creating SOPs. So basically, as we onboard someone and we teach them something, as I'm training them, I'm making notes on things I want to make sure that they're doing. And then as they're learning and as they've gotten really into the role, I have them create an SOP for me, which for those of you who don't know is a standard operating procedure. So what happens is I've had them create a step-by-step guide to exactly what it is they do. And I spend a lot of my time creating these so that if this freelancer should ever leave, it takes me significantly less time to onboard someone else, because I now have this role basically painted out and exactly what it is I need them to do.
Yeah, I love it. One of the things I've gotten to do is I get them to create the SOP. So when I was first starting FreeeUp, I kind of know that the processes are going to change. Where as we get bigger, you have to keep tweaking it. And so one of the jobs of my assistants, Jane, Ladan, and Azelle, who are awesome, I think you've met them, is they have to keep the SOPs up to date as we change stuff. And I want their ideas. I want their feedback. I want to constantly improve these processes. And as we improve it, they get into writing. God forbid any of them quit. It's not that big of a deal because we have those SOPs and they keep being up to date, or they keep being updated. Biggest mistake I see, I always say FreeeUp is not the Walmart of workers, because it's impossible to hire really good people for that cheap price. And by all means, if you found that $1 an hour worker and they are awesome, stick with them, treat them well, give them some raises. I mean, you want to hold those people around, but a lot of times it doesn't work out and cheap becomes expensive pretty quickly. If you are going to go cheap, make sure it's someone that's incredibly replaceable. Make sure it's tasks For example, I do lead generation, and I definitely don't pay high prices for that because we can teach someone to do it in an hour. And if someone quits, it's not the end of the world. It's very replaceable. And the lead gen people that go above and beyond, we do give them raises and we keep them around. With that, I'm always against lowballing people. I mean, you find someone that wants $15 an hour and you're like, hey, I'll make you an offer for 12. And at the time, maybe they really need a job and they take that 12. But the second that someone offers them 15 or more, they're out the door. They have no commitment to you. We've all had situations where we felt undervalued and we kind of despised our boss secretly because of it. That's just the way it works. It's human's nature. So if you can only afford 12, that's fine, but find someone that's looking for 12. Don't try to lowball the 15 and 20, the people that are looking for those high prices. And really know what the market rates are. If you go to freeup.com/pricing, I tried to make these ballpark pricing because the freelancers are setting their own rates. We're not controlling that, but it gives you a much better idea of how the market's shifting. And every month I try to update this as much as I can based on what I've seen in the market. So always have a baseline, avoid lowballing, and definitely avoid hiring college students for long and important work. I know a lot of times they're cheap and a lot of times they're really smart, but their number one priority, and rightfully so, is school. And you have to remember that. So it's something that wasted a lot of time and energy. I wish that I'd skipped that whole part where I spent years hiring college students. Don't do it unless, again, it's very easily replaceable work.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially with the hiring cheap. There's so many times where, there's something that you want to hire cheap for because you want to keep your margins as best as possible. But the thing is if you hire cheap and you just get someone in there just to get someone in there at a low rate, they're going to do a really bad job. If you hire someone at a rate that you believe is fair, you're going to have a lot more of an easier time coaching them because you're going to know that, you know what, I'm paying you a fair wage. I need you to be doing this. You can expect from them what you want to expect from the role. But at a certain point, if you're paying someone $2 or $3 an hour, at what point do you kind of just go, yeah, but I'm not paying them that much? So now they're basically half-assing the job, and you don't want that.
And here's kind of a funny tip off of that. People don't realize the nicer you treat people, the better environment that you give them, the more that you make them enjoy their job, the less you have to pay them. And we're not talking about you take a $50 person and charge them 20, but that person that might be on the edge of whether 30 is fair to them, if you treat them well and they like working with you, they're going to stick around longer. If you're constantly yelling at people and mismanaging and unorganized and you make it a bad environment, people are going to want higher prices to work with you. It's just the way that the industry works. So keep that in mind when you get to the other stuff like building culture and team commodity and setting goals. Treating people well saves you money. Regardless of what you think on the personal level, it's a good business decision.
Yeah.
So here's where everyone messes up, in my opinion. It's the not setting expectations. You go through figuring out what your perfect worker looks like. You submit a worker request, let's say, to FreeeUp or wherever platform you're using. You do an interview. You're like, this person's good. Right after that, getting on the same page with expectations before you start work, a lot of people skip that or they don't spend a lot of time on it. Now, expectations could be anything from how you communicate. Is it Skype? Is it Slack? Is it Trello? It could be what you consider successful or not successful, because one VA might work with 5 different clients and every single client wants a different thing and they're not mind readers. So you have to tell them this. It could be pet peeves. I have a pet peeve with my assistants. If they message me like, hey, Nate, and they wait for my response, that I just get 1,000 threat messages every day. I need them to be direct, tell me what it is. But how would they ever know that if I didn't tell them that up front? So I set the expectations up front of what I don't like, what I don't like. Whenever someone's going off the wrong path or not doing what I want, I take a step back and I reset expectations. I get everything in writing and then we move forward again. And not until we're 100% on the same page do we do that. And if we get it all in writing and we've taken that step back and we go forward again and we're still not on the same page, then I'm looking to switch. But so many issues can be fixed just by taking a step back, resetting expectations, and going forward. And I have a free document that you can use regardless of whether you're a FreeeUp client. I'm sure Andrew will have it in the notes there, but you can also find it on the FreeeUp blog. It's called the Client Expectations Doc. Fill it out, hand it over to someone, have them read it, answer any questions they have, boom, on the same page, move forward.
Yeah. I'll have all the slides going out probably later today, so everyone will be able to access these as soon as we're done here. So we're kind of the same boat where we do, we really want to make sure that we have some kind of expectation on how we're going to communicate with each other. Recently, we switched over to Asana. I've used a bunch of different ones, whether it's Trello or Basecamp or all that. And we have, a bunch of all of our VAs are in different teams, and they're all set up in here. Basecamp works the same way. Trello is another great one that's a little less expensive. It's a great way to keep them all communicating with each other, because sometimes there's going to be things that overlap. Like obviously I can speak to marketing. So if social media, you're pushing an ad to gain emails, you're going to want whoever you have running emails to be able to tell the social media person, hey, these emails are great. Let's keep up that lead generation. Or, hey, these leads aren't that great. So let's cater to a different audience here. So having some kind of project management and having some really easy communication is a great way to do it. So whether that's Slack or Skype or anything like that.
Yeah, I love Trello. I feel like I like Basic. I like Skype. I like Trello. For developers, we use Jira, but I have a project manager that manages that. For whatever reason, developers really like that opposed to the other software. I've heard great things about Slack and Asana. Maybe one day I'll migrate to them. But cool. So putting all your eggs in one basket, the classic entrepreneurial mistake, you find that VA that you really like after a long time searching, and you just load them up with everything. Do the customer service, do the orders, do the marketing, do the social media, and that person quits, that person gets sick, and all of a sudden it sets your business back months. And this happened to me when I was a young entrepreneur. I had one supplier for my baby products. I had one manager of the day that was responsible for everything. And I went on my first vacation after a year and a half, 2 years of building this company. And on day one, I get a call from the manager saying that he had to focus on school. That's what his parents want him to do, college student. From the supplier saying they no longer wanted to work with us for whatever reason they had. And to top it off, my accountant called it and told me someone stole my identity. So it was a pretty bad day. But it all comes down to putting your eggs in one basket. And when I got back from that trip, I was motivated. I was like, we are never making that mistake again. We're going to departmentalize everything. One person for orders, one person for customer service. If someone quits, not the end of the world, easily replaceable, the whole McDonald's method. Same thing with suppliers, same thing with revenue chains, same thing with owning different businesses, same thing with diversifying the stock market. As a business owner, you should be trying to diversify everything, and hiring is no different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same. We kind of take the same approach. We're basically, if we have a VA who's doing a great job for us and, we want to give them as much work as possible, we always make sure we have at least one VA as a backup. The thing with freelancers is that they can be great. You don't have to have that many people in-house. It, keeps a lot of your overhead down, but you also have to remember that they could leave at any minute. They don't, it's not necessarily customary to give 2 weeks all the time with freelancers. And you don't want someone to just drop out because of something like that, or if they have to go to school or anything along those lines. So having backups who also, you can give them those SOPs, or even as backup who's just only doing a few hours a week so that the other VA you originally have can show them what they're doing. It's just nice to have a backup so that you don't have to worry about some things like that.
Yeah, it's real quick off that. So it's like the worker request I get that's, hey, I want a customer service rep 45 to 50 hours a week, 7 days a week. And I always contact that client. I'm like, listen, I'll fill that request if you want to. You're the client, more than happy to do it. Can I make a suggestion that you get 2 people to each work 3 or 4 days at 20 to 25 hours? You have a backup. They can sub for each other. And usually that light bulb goes off and they make the right decision. But you got to have those backups.
Oh, yeah. So we had already touched on this a little bit. So we use Slack, but I also use Skype. Zoom's another one where, Zoom I use a lot when I'm teaching, so we can screen share, but I can also record it so I can send it back to them and they can use it as a referral. So basically, if I don't have an SOP in place yet, I can walk them through whatever it is we're teaching them, and then I can just give them that video to keep going through it, so that way you're not getting 500 questions about, oh, wait, what did you say about this? What did you say about that? Blah, blah. They can go back and use it as a reference. In terms of giving everyone access to things, I'm just a big fan of using Google Drive, using a G Suite account. So basically what you can do is you can just create folders of what these VAs need to have access to and what they don't. because I know a lot of people worry about security and, oh, I don't want them to have access to my finances and I have it all in one place, or I have access to this or anything like that. So then we can really limit the amount of things that they have access to. So it's really nice to have all this together. And most of these project management platforms that we spoke about a few slides ago, they all integrate with this. So Google Drive can integrate with Slack, but it can also integrate with Asana and Basecamp and Trello, so that way they only have access to the things that they need access to.
Absolutely. So here's where a lot of people mess up as well. And it's almost that stubborn business owner mentality that I've had success, so whatever I say is right. And that's not really the best way to go about it. I just did one-on-one meetings with every freelancer on my internal team over the past month. We spread it out. And at the end of the meeting, after we've gone through how last year went, what are the goals, how do they like our software, we're always getting that feedback. And at the end, it's like, hey, give us feedback on us. And if their response is, Nate, you're the best boss in the world, we love you, don't want to change anything, we don't accept that. That's not an okay answer. There has to be some way that I can improve as a business owner. And we really put a little pressure on them to get it out of them, because we want to hear it. You're not going to hurt my feelings. We're on the same side, and I want feedback on everything. I want how do I make my software better? How do I make the experience better? How do I make the marketplace, the community better? How do I change text? I had a great example in our time clock right now. It says hire and reject. Those are the two options. Freelancer comes to me and is like, you know what, reject it is a pretty harsh word. It might turn people off. People might not want to click it. So we're changing it to hire and pass. Boom. Someone provided that idea. And some of the ideas that have made me the most money or cut the most cost didn't come from me. They came from people in my network, on my internal team, because we make the environment where we encourage ideas and that it's expected. We don't want robots. It's not do what I say because I said it. It's you're coming in every day trying to do the process and make the process better and think and provide feedback and provide ideas. And that's really the culture that we've created. And that's what I encourage you guys to do out there, is to encourage that culture and ask for feedback.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, mainly because, if you treat them like employees, they'll act like employees and they will voice their opinions, and they will help you grow your business, and they will come up with ideas that you may not have thought of. But if you don't, they're just going to feel like expendable freelancers, and they may leave at any moment because they're just not happy. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't really feel useful. I'm not using my brain. I'm not actually, being challenged. Whereas, if you actually encourage them to get involved, they're going to help the business grow and they're going to feel better about things.
Absolutely.
Kind of touches on this too.
Yeah. So not sharing goals. So the best example is we have a graphic designer. We have someone who edits videos. They know what our goals are. Our goal before we broke it was to build 10,000 hours in 1 week. They knew what that was, even though they really don't have a direct impact in that. So if they know what it is, that means everyone should know what it is. And even in our network, we're constantly saying, hey, these are the goals. This is what we're trying to do. And it gives people a sense of community. It gives people a reason to do it. No one wants to be sent an email being like, do this project. They send it in and just get another email being like, do this next project. They want to know how the work that they're doing is impacting the business. And it is going to motivate them. It's going to reduce turnover extremely by a large amount. The easiest way to reduce turnover is to make sure that everyone knows what the goals are and is motivated towards those goals, because people don't want to leave. They want to hit the goal. So giving details, answering questions, always during our Monday morning meeting, we're like, hey, these are the goals. Anyone have any questions? When they do, we dive deeper. We're an open book. We're not hiding anything. We're going to tell you if we had a bad week, a good week, and whether we hit the goals or didn't hit the goals. And that's really a mentality that I encourage you to bring to your freelancers, your internal employees, whatever it is.
Yeah. In terms of the encouragement, like we always tend to do a little extra incentives. So we've had so many, and it's kind of dependent on the freelancer, but everything from, giving them a little bonus here and there to let them know that they're appreciated, or to just helping them, with their jobs. Like if they are constantly doing webinars like we're doing right now, maybe you every now and then when they're done, really well and they've had a lot of people show up or anything like that, you can buy them a nice, camera for their laptop. Before we've had a few VAs who have been around for a couple of years and they were doing really well and they were having issues with Wi-Fi. So we decided that one of the perks we were going to give them is we were going to cover their Wi-Fi bill. One VA a couple of years ago, we bought a new computer for because they were doing really well. They had, they were always active and they were always helping, but they were having trouble keeping their older computer working. So we bought them a new computer. Like, it's nice to treat them like an employee and not so much a freelancer. It'll keep turnover from getting way out of line, and it will keep other freelancers wanting to work with you because they're going to hear that it's so nice to work with you. So you can still build a culture within your business, even if you're not all in the same room. It is still possible to get everyone involved, even having all the freelancers talking to each other and having them access to be able to talk to each other. They may build a friendship. They may build something that will actually keep them all feeling like a family and actually like they're all reaching for a common goal, as opposed to just they're all here just to work and then sign off at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, end of the year bonuses, always good call. I have a very popular blog article on the FreeeUp blog about why you should get bonuses, why it's a good investment, why it'll help you the following year. So, and here's the thing that I probably get this once a week. Clients like, oh, this workers, they're good. I like their attitude. I like working with them, but they're not doing exactly what I want them to do, or I think they could do it better. I don't know how to handle it. And I always tell them to be direct. You have to remember, freelancers are business owners. They are contractors. This is their livelihood. They can take feedback. They're professionals. You have to. And to be honest, if I give someone feedback and they take it the wrong way and they're mad at me for it or they take it personally, those are not the kind of people that I want to work with. And I no longer work with those people. In order to be in my community, in order to be on my internal team, you have to be able to give me feedback. And that means you have to be able to take feedback as well and adjust and improve on that feedback. So obviously, if you're giving feedback and it's not working, you can cut ties. And I always encourage, let's say that you've invested 6 months into teaching someone something. You don't want to fire them in one day, but there's alternate strategies. Like you can bring someone on and slowly start taking things off that person's plate. And either the light bulb is going to go off and they're going to hit the ground running and do a great job again, or eventually you're going to take everything off their plate and they become dispensable and you can move on. But before any of that, give direct feedback. Give them a chance to improve. Make it super clear, black and white, no gray area. This is what I like that you're doing. This is what I don't like. These are the changes I want you to make. And give them an opportunity to do it. Give them a chance to ask questions and give them a chance to give feedback to you. Like I said, I mean, when I was first hiring people from the Philippines, I was getting frustrated because I was like, I've been telling you the things, you're not doing it. And some of the feedback was, Nate, you think you're being clear, but you're not being clear. You should word it like this instead, and then we'll understand it. And that was a light bulb for me. And I kind of learned how to speak to someone that is in another culture, essentially. So that's really my advice is don't be scared of conflict, give honest feedback, move away from people that can't handle it. And if you do that and it doesn't get you anywhere, there are methods where you don't have to set your business back. And I'm more than happy to help you with that.
Yeah. So Nate, we had a question from Chad. He asked about the weekly meetings that you hold with your VAs, and he wanted to know if you can expand on that a little bit.
Sure. So my meetings for FreeeUp, everyone's there. I usually say welcome. I'm like, hey, this is what happened last week. I usually give some kind of update. I'll tell people if Connor and my business partner, if either of us have any like days off coming up in the next week or anything they should know about where they have to cover. We'll go over any like project updates. We usually start with software. Hey, these things are launching, so pay attention to this. Maybe there might be a theme of the week. So for example, last week, freelancers weren't sure if they should reach out to clients on Skype. And so we sent out an email about that, and I wanted my assistants to really encourage them. So just certain themes of the week. It might be like let's build more relationships. It could be, hey, let's really focus on accounting and make sure that we're caught up to date, whatever it is. So we go over last week, we go over the future week, and then I have every single team, the accounting team, the social media team, the blog writers, the recruitment team. They give individual updates, and people ask those teams questions to get more information to figure out how their team can help that team achieve their goal. So it starts off more overview last week, future week, Connor and I giving updates, and then it goes individual teams. And then we have, hey, anyone have any last feedback, ideas, suggestions? Talk about that, and that wraps up the meeting. And sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 20 minutes, and we get through it fast, especially in the middle of busy season when we all have a ton of work to do. But just having those meetings to get on the same page are so important.
Yeah. I mean, obviously in our scenario, we are the outsourced work most of the time, but some of the things that we do with the few people that we do have outsourced is we just go ahead and set a time in our calendar, whether it's weekly or whether it's monthly, and we just put it in everyone's calendar so that they know we are going to follow up with each other at this time to see how things are going. So even that way, if you're not getting a group cohesive conversation together, you're at least having that opportunity to touch base with them and make sure things are going on. Even if that means you're getting on a call, or if you're just shooting them a message and saying, hey, it's Monday, I just want to get a quick update on how things have been going, so you can stay on top of them, but at the same time, you can see how they're doing, you can see how they're feeling, and you can see if they're struggling with anything at their job. Towards the end here, as we are going to have a Q&A, just had a really good really good question from Lisa that I know I want to touch on, but I'm going to wait till we kind of get to the end here. So I'll let you keep going here, Nate.
Yeah, just keep in mind, I said this at the beginning, no one has a perfect hiring record. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make bad hires. Focus on the system. Focus on the process. I always relate this to baseball. You hit the ball right in a line and you hit it at someone and they catch it. Are you going to change your swing? No, because you did everything that you could to have a good experience, and then there's certain things you can't control. So focus on the systems, focus on the processes, focus on the things you can control, and that's how your hire percentages goes up, even though you'll never hit 100%. If you do that long term, you'll be able to grow your business effectively by hiring.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to put this in here because I know you're going to have some good ones. I got a couple. But we have some people sending us messages, so we'll do a Q&A towards the end. But if you guys have any nightmare stories that are really good, please share them. I'll make sure to read them out loud. But Nate, I'm going to let you kick this one off. I would love to hear like the worst thing that's ever happened to you from working with a freelancer, and then what you did to kind of fix that.
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't even know where to start. So I had this one freelancer we hired for customer service. We vetted them. We thought they were good. They were probably on day like 4 or 5 of training. This was back when we had an office. And Chris, who runs my customer service for my e-commerce business, he finished training. He like left his laptop in like this glass room facing out towards us. So the entire office is here. Glass room is facing this way. He had been screen sharing with the worker, and the worker forgot to turn screen sharing off, and he started watching porn. So the entire office is watching this freelancer watch porn, and it took, like, I was out to lunch. Like, I walked in and obviously was horrified, and God knows the HR nightmare that it could have caused. Luckily, we shut that down pretty quick. But I always think back is that's one of the funnier stories looking back at it, although it wasn't funny at the time. Obviously, immediately fired that guy and moved on. But that was a pretty interesting experience.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I knew I should have gone first. I don't think I'm going to be able to top that. Actually, just recently here, with our own marketing in-house, we always tend to, keep our clients first. So we want to make sure that our clients' marketing is getting done before we worry about ours. And we actually have hired a handful of bloggers who've been helping us out, or freelancers. And actually, Nate, I just mentioned to you the other day that I have one that's driving me crazy. So we have this guy I've been working with him forever. He's always done really good work. But I had worked with him at the other e-commerce company and never really gave him a lot more to do. He only had a little bit to do here and there. And more recently, he was like, yeah, I'd love more work. I'd love more work. So we gave him a little bit more. And it started to get to a point where all of our blog posts started getting way backed up for our clients. I like to be way ahead of schedule. So blog posts that are going out next week or a week after, 3 weeks later, are all scheduled and kind of ready to go. And we got way behind to the point where he was turning them in like the morning they were due. And so for some of our clients, like, they were getting really nervous about blog posts and things going up on time. So that's really my most recent nightmare story of just having to figure out how to fade away from using him. Luckily, I found a pretty decent blog writer through FreeeUp. So now I have him helping us out, and he's been able to take on more. So we're phasing away the other guy, but it's definitely one of those scenarios of, be careful with how often and how fast you give new freelancers more work, even if they ask for it, because you never really know if they're just going to be like, I lied. So yeah, a few of these are pretty bad. If anyone's got any good ones, go ahead and send them in. We'll see if we can't read them out. But we're getting towards the end here, so I'll let you keep going here, Nate.
Yeah. So the FreeeUp marketplace, I mentioned we get hundreds of applicants every week. We vet them for skill, attitude, communication. We take the top 1%, 1 out of every 100 applicants, let them in. They're available to you, first come, first serve. You put in a request. As Andrew knows, we fill requests within 24 hours. We're pretty fast, usually faster. On the back end, you get access to my awesome team of assistants who are on 24/7 to help you if there's any issues. And we have a no turnover guarantee. If the worker quits for any reason, we cover replacement costs, get you a new worker right away. And because I was late to this webinar for technical difficulties, I'm going to double that credit, $25 to $50 free credit if you sign up. So again, my apologies. I'm usually better than that. And yeah, if you have any questions, my calendar is right at the top of freeup.com with 3 E's, and I'm happy to meet with you about your business and how I can help.
Beautiful.
And don't forget to mention seller choice as your referral to get that $50.
Yeah, thanks. So we'll do a Q&A here. So guys, if you have any more questions, I know we have a few in here that we can go through. Start sending them in. We'll go through a few Q&As. I'll close up here on stuff that I have. So I'm a huge fan, as I mentioned, of automating as much as possible and then getting freelancers for anything that I have no desire to do. So I'm a big fan of finding new apps and new software and things like that, especially ones that can automate. So we took, here at Seller's Choice, if you don't know who we are, we're a full service digital marketing agency for strictly e-commerce sellers. We have some sellers that are brand new and have just launched products, and then we have others that are well into 8 figures and doing, great. And I have compiled everything that everyone is using and found out which, what their tech stacks are, what apps are they using on Shopify, what software are they using, to help them do product research on Amazon, what plugins are they using on WordPress and their WooCommerce site. So we compiled everything for Shopify, WordPress, and then marketplaces on what everyone's using. And we just made a cool little graph out of it, and you can download it for free. They're not going to ask you for your email or anything like that. It's just a simple bit.ly/tech stacks. So go ahead and fill that out. It'll download for you right away. And then I'm giving away a 30-minute marketing consultation. Very simple. I'll sit down with you for 30 minutes and, we will go through anything that you could be outsourcing. We'll go through anything that you could be using some help with anywhere. And I promise you, not a sales approach. I'm just going to simply help you out. We can do anything you want, from social media to email marketing to Amazon to eBay to Walmart. I'll help you out anywhere you guys want. So all you got to do is fill that out, and I'll pick a few of you guys out, and I'll shoot you an email, and we'll set something up. But we can start going through some of these questions. So Lisa asked a really good one earlier, and I have a few answers here, but Nate, I think you might have a better shot at this one. What type of tests can you give to a prospective freelancer?
Sure. So we break it down into 3 things: skill, attitude, communication. So for skill, it's very much skill specific. We obviously ask an Amazon expert different things than we would ask a web developer. And you can even find different tests online. We've bought web development tests that we give people because I'm not a developer. I'm not an expert. So testing for skill is good in that regard. What we'll also do is we'll hire experts to come in and help design that part of our interview process. With the attitude and the communication, that's where a lot of those tricks come in. We're looking for people that have a positive attitude. I know, Andrew, you've met people in the community. They're very similar-minded. They care. They're not aggressive. They're peaceful, kind people who are generally in it to do good things and to help people, and they enjoy doing what they're doing. A good example of that is I hate doing bookkeeping more than anything else in the world, but I love being an entrepreneur. So the people I hire to do my bookkeeping need to love bookkeeping as much as I love being an entrepreneur. So that's really what I'm looking for attitude. And communication, that's everything. I don't care how good of an attitude someone has, how talented they are. If you can't communicate with them at an incredibly high level, it's never going to work out. So communication is as simple as people who show up on time, people who speak the same language, people who, if they are having a family emergency, they tell you before they miss a meeting, not afterwards. And people are going to have stuff like that. To me, it's not about the personal issues. It's not about the things they can't control. For example, the webinar issues I had before. It's not like I just showed up 15 minutes in and it was like, oh, sorry, I was having issues. I was in constant contact with Andrew the entire time. So it's very similar. If I have assistants that come in and I have to chase them down, or me and my team have to chase them down, they don't last very long in the network. And that's really what we're vetting for ahead of time.
Yeah, I personally actually am not a huge fan of tests. Like I had mentioned earlier, I am actually more of a fan of, getting past work so I can see if they've done something similar to, what I've asked them to do. Or what I'll do is I will, ask for the references. Otherwise, there's a few things out there that you can get. Like Nathan mentioned, there are tests out there that you can buy and have them take, or some of them I believe are even free. If not, if you're hiring for like AdWords or Facebook or Hootsuite or anything along those lines, some of those companies have certifications, and you could just ask them if they're certified. And if they're not, you could ask them to be, because some of them are free. So that's sometimes an approach I would take. Nate, you had a question about those meetings you were doing. Do you do them on U.S. business hours, or for some of your freelancers that are in other countries? Do you request them to be on U.S. time when you're doing those meetings, or do you try to, how do you do the timing of those?
Sure, it's a good question. So my Monday morning meeting is at 10 a.m. every morning. I meet with some people at 9, but the main meeting is at 10. So that overlaps a little bit. It's night for a few of them, but it's only once a week. It's usually not that big of a deal. I also have a Calendly. I think you use it. And I block off. So Monday and Tuesday nights, people can book me at nights, to my girlfriend's dismay. And then during the week, I have times that people can book it, and people can't double book. So it doesn't matter to me. When people book it, they can always find a time in there that works for them. Usually, yes, there's always that time zone difference, but I mean, it also depends what it is. I mean, I have LaDan who covers my Skype in the afternoon. Her work time is like 1 p.m. to 11 p.m., which is the opposite for her, a.m. So it's not an ideal schedule for her, but she knew what she was going into up front. I treat her very well. I made sure that she was happy with it before I hired her. But for my graphic designer and my video editor, I just have to be able to meet with them for 20 minutes here and there on my time when I'm working. And then I don't care when they edit it, as long as they hit the due date. So for the meetings, I would try to pick one time every week, maybe get some feedback, get some suggestions from the other people. But for the other meetings, set up a Calendly where people can pick times that work for them.
Yeah, nice. Chad asked me if I manage the client relationship myself, or if any of my VAs have direct client access. None of my VAs have client access. None of my VAs have access to anything that our clients have. Most of the stuff that we have outsourced are things that are actually for ourselves and not for our clients, with the exclusion of some blog writers. But they simply write it up in a Word document, and then we edit it as we see fit, make it all SEO friendly and that fun stuff. So no one touches our clients. That's really just on us. I don't like people to have access to things that they don't need access to. And our clients are obviously our number one priority here. So I don't mind them having access to our stuff, but not my client stuff. Someone asked, I don't know if this is your real name, but her name or his name, I can't even tell. Ear Mitts Bandless Earmuffs. It looks like a person, but it's a company. They want to know if we're going to be at Prosper next month. I'll be there. Are you going, Nate?
I'm not. I'll be in the Philippines, but we're sponsoring it. So you'll see our logos inside the goodie bags or whatever you call them. But yeah, hopefully next year. The timing didn't work out. I'll be in the Philippines from March, 5th to the 20th or something like that.
Yeah. Fun. I'll be there. I will say hi to everyone in honor of you, Nate.
Put in a good word. Oh, this guy FreeeUp, this graphic, I know them.
All right, let's do. I got one more. What if the individual is just starting out as a freelancer and doesn't have an example of their work? Individual is transitioning from corporate to freelancing. On my side, I mean, yeah, that's tough. If they don't have, anything to show you, it's kind of all dependent on what it is you're hiring them for. If they are running social media accounts or anything like that, then they can tell you that they can provide you with the profiles. You can either A, take their word for it, or B, my preference would be to get references. So you might be able to get their past jobs references. Or if, they're doing graphic design or anything like that, they can usually provide you with past work they've done. If not, taking the test route might be another way to go, giving them a test on one way, or to play it safe. Sometimes you can offer them a lower rate for a test and be like, hey, if you can prove that you actually know this, since you don't have, any kind of examples, then I can hire you on at X rate in the future to take on the rest of the project. So that way you're giving them that shot that they're looking for. And chances are, if they're really looking for a chance to just prove themselves to break out into freelancing, they'd be stupid not to take that anyway. So you should be fine doing it that way.
Yeah, I agree. From the freelancer side, if I was trying to get into freelancing, I'd post on social media, hey, I do writing. Anyone want some free work? My only requirement is you let me use it for a portfolio later. Boom, helps you build your portfolio. From the client side, get some references that show that he's a reliable person, that isn't going to steal your stuff, even if it's not related about the work. You can still get references from anyone that's worked or interacted with this person before. And yeah, those test trials, that give them maybe extended tests, give them a cheaper rate, like you said, free work if necessary. I mean, we've gotten to the point where you're not getting into the FreeeUp marketplace unless you are an experienced freelancer, but there are ways to build up your profile, and you can do it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I think that wraps this up. I appreciate everyone joining us. I will have all these slides out to everyone later today. We'll also have the replay up. It'll stay up on our Facebook, and we'll also put it up on our YouTube and all those things. I'll send out an email to everyone. I'm always active on social media, so feel free to reach out to anywhere at Andrew Maff. I love answering questions and helping people out. It's just kind of makes me feel good, so I like doing it. And then Nate, you have Nate's email here, and you can set up a meeting with him. Nate, you have any closing words?
No, I really appreciate it. Sorry again for the technical difficulties, and I look forward to working with a lot of you, including you, Andrew.
Thanks, Nate. Hey, appreciate everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you all next time.